when you feel inclined to hold a grudge over a petty matter, throw your gears into reverse by saying something friendly or doing some small favor for the person who has upset you. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you, Basia. So impactful. And now we have our speaker for today, Shoshana Hayman. And I believe, Harriet, you are going to introduce her, please.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Good morning to all of you wonderful, exceptional ladies. It's my privilege and honor to introduce to you a very incredible lady, a Rebbitzin, my role model, my mentor, who I've looked up to since 1983. She and her husband, the rabbi of a small community in Calgary, mentored and guided me and my husband along to an observant life, which rerouted our lives to a life of Torah and enrichment. Shoshana has been a facilitator and parenting consultant for over 40 years. Her passion for learning about parenting and child development began in the United States and then continued in Canada, where her husband, Rabbi Pinchas Hayman, revived the House of Jacob Mikveh Israel congregation and founded the Akiva Academy Day School. Shoshana was fully involved in helping develop the newly flourishing observant community, while also continuing on her own journey as a mother and building her qualifications as a counselor and facilitator. It was a pivotal decision for Rabbi Pinchas and Shoshana to make Aliyah with their 6 children in 1987 that changed the course of their lives. Once settled, Shoshana set up classes and workshops for parents, first in English and then in Hebrew. She opened a publishing house to publish the Hebrew translations of the popular series, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, by Faber and Maslish, and trained many group leaders to facilitate workshops. Her search for the missing links to her understanding brought her to the work of Dr. Gordon Neufeld, and she entered an internship which led her to a faculty appointment on his virtual international campus. As international director in the Hebrew language, Shoshana has translated 11 courses on topics, including making sense of preschoolers, making sense of adolescents, play, understanding aggression, the separation complex, and more. So a deep understanding of children from the inside out is available to Hebrew speakers. Shoshana's lifelong search for the keys to helping children grow up to be emotionally healthy and realize their full human potential is contributing to a paradigm shift in the way that adults understand children and what children need from us to grow from within, develop meaningful relationships with themselves and others, and choose the correct path from their own awareness and will. Shoshana's greatest love is being with her children and many grandchildren. And with no further ado, Shoshana Hayman, Rebbitzin.
Hi, hello, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Harriet, I'm going to cry. I think I need a few minutes to cry. Harriet and I had a chance to reconnect not that long ago, really, and we've been in touch regularly, which has been wonderful. And I really thank you for this privilege and honor to be with you today. And I gave some thought to what I wanted to speak about. And so Harriet and I chose the title, What Our Children and Grandchildren Need from Us Most. And I would like to connect that to the experience that we've had the past couple of years with this coronavirus. We all know the toll it's taken on our families and especially on our children. Now that we're just coming out of it, we can really see how it's impacted our children on an emotional level. And I want to start by saying that I started thinking about really what children need from us when my first son was born 45 years ago. And I always wondered what would be the formula for a child to grow up in a healthy emotional way and remain connected to Torah and mitzvot and keep the Masoret? Is there any kind of a formula? And that's really what I set out to find. Of course, I found it in the most unexpected places. But I think this is a goal that we all share as we raise our children. And there are different approaches for how to do this. I think the most common approach is what we would call a behavioral approach, where we try to put form on the child. We try to get it from the outside, to teach him, to train him, explain to him how to behave properly, how to keep the mitzvot properly. But I want to share with you another approach. Sometimes when people begin to comprehend this approach, they say, Shoshana, you're living in the time of the Geula. And I said, that's exactly right. This is the shift in how we understand children and how children will be raised now as more and more parents discover and this deep understanding, this deep insight. So we call it the developmental attachment approach. The material that I've encountered and have tried to master over the past 15 years is material from developmental science and from neurology. Not that I've just actually studied neurology, but my mentor, Dr. Neufeld, really developed this material himself as a scientist, and then put it in a language that everyone can understand. So I'm not going to go into the science with you, but what I want to share with you is 3 things. This is going to be the takeaway that I hope you'll have. 3 things that as parents and grandparents, we need to provide our children and grandchildren with on a regular basis, just like we provide them with food and physical nourishment. This for them is spiritual nourishment that allows growth to unfold from the inside out. We are less concerned about behavior because we know that as children mature, they will improve their behavior on their own. They'll grow out of childish behaviors like impulsiveness. They'll grow out of it, aggression. They'll grow out of those things. And they'll develop the traits of a mature person when they have basic conditions provided to them. And we can really think of ourselves as gardeners, not sculptors. We're not sculpting and shaping our children, but rather we're like gardeners that nourish their roots and then let nature do the rest and help grow the children up. Rav Kook also refers to parenting as agriculture, for the same reason that we provide the conditions that are necessary in order for growth to take place. I want to point out that even though this material I discovered and found the words for through developmental science, through the work of Dr. Neufeld and his model, but on the way, I wanted to make sure that these ideas were rooted in our own Masoret, in our own Makorot. And I found the most connections in Hasidut and the Maharal. And I'll try to point a few things out as I go along. But I think it was incredible to find that Rabbanim like the Rebbe Piasetzna, that he actually wrote about these things at the end of the 1800s, before we had brain science to actually show these things. So everything is in Torah, as we know. So the big wake-up call for me was that not all children grow up as they're getting older. Maturation is not a given. It can only happen when children have in certain conditions. And this is why this whole period of time recently, which has been so alarming and so distracting, has actually removed those conditions from children unless adults were aware of what children were needing. So we can actually provide our children with the nourishment that they need, no matter what the circumstances are. As long as we are aware of what children need, we can provide a shield for them so that we can provide these conditions, and they will develop emotional maturity, inner strength, maturity, and all the qualities we want to see in them as mature adults. So the three things, I simplified them as much as I could. The three things you can call the 3 R's. It's rest. The first R is rest. The second R is room. And the third R is relationship. And at the end, I'll add a little fourth thing on that is kind of a fun thing that we can also provide. But the first R, the rest. What is rest? And why is it so important? So when we talk about rest, we talk about deep psychological rest. Growth only happens when there's rest, in the same way that we make sure to get enough sleep and make sure our children get enough sleep, because we know that's when they grow. That's when the body repairs itself physically. But psychological and emotional rest are just as important. And this is a deep rest. It has to do with the autonomic nervous system, which cycles from sympathetic to parasympathetic. And the cycle of rest, the phase of rest, is the parasympathetic system. And we all need to be in that flow and have periods of time during the day, during the week. Shabbat should be like that for us, when we can our brains can just naturally move into parasympathetic nervous system. And that's where we have growth, creativity, peace of mind. And we need to make sure that our children are in a state of rest as much as possible. Now, sometimes in modern times, rest seems to be a waste of time. We could be doing so much. We could be working at so many things. Why rest? We're here in this world to work. But for the brain to really repair itself and grow and be creative, rest is definitely an essential, and especially for children, because their brains have so much growing to do. So rest for children means being free from needing to make things work. They need to be free of worrying about consequences and outcomes. They need to be free from worrying about making us happy or making us proud. And any adult who has ever suffered from adrenal gland burnout realizes how much we need rest. We really can't be in work mode all the time. So sometimes we even get sick because our body says, that's enough, I need to rest, and we'll get sick. So we're forced to rest. I used to tell my children, take a day off from school whenever you feel you need to. You don't have to get sick to take a day off. And they never abused it. They really rarely stayed home from school. And when they did, it was on days they felt they wouldn't miss too much. So restlessness, children who are restless and can't sit still, this is not a personality trait. It's a sign, it's a symptom that they're lacking true rest. And before we resort to a diagnosis or medication, we first of all need to provide them with rest and see if that will take care of the problem. And they'll get their concentration back. And this is something I see over and over again with the parents who come for counseling on how to help their children. The next thing is room. What does that mean, giving our children room? Well, it means they need room to express themselves. They need safety to be able to share with us their thoughts, their ideas, their opinions. Sometimes we get worried when they share their ideas, but we don't have to worry. We just need to give them room to have one place. They need one person in their lives where they can be safe to share anything that's in their minds, anything that's in their thoughts. And they especially need to be able to share their feelings. This is another thing that the Rebbe Piasetzna wrote about back in the late 1800s, the importance of feelings and emotions. I was so overjoyed to read what he wrote about that. So they need that invitation to come out of themselves and share all of who they are without worrying about the repercussions. They need to share their vulnerable feelings. They need a place for tears. And I would need an hour to explain the different kinds of tears there are and how important that true tears are for development. We don't have the time, but if you picture for a moment an iceberg, and the tip of the iceberg is really the behavior of a child, maybe the problem behavior, maybe problems in learning. That is just the tip of the iceberg. What we don't see is what is below the surface. And there's so much going on there. Neurologically, there's so much going on there. Emotionally, there's so much going on there. And when we see problems, what it means is that there's a stuckness. It means their feelings actually can't move. Their feelings are not being expressed. It means that their brain has already had to, for one reason or another, put up a defense so the child will not feel vulnerably. And vulnerable feelings can get lost and missing very easily when children get the message that those feelings aren't good. They're not invited. So sadness, tears, missing, fears, all of those things and many more need to have a place where they can be expressed. And we don't have to be afraid of it because, like a bicycle, they move. After they have expression, they move, and then other feelings can come up. And again, this is a very long explanation that we don't have enough time for. But the bicycle is a good image to show how feelings just come up and down and up and down. And actually, in Sefer HaTanya, they also talk about it being like a wheel, and don't shed all of your tears at once because it's going to go around again, and happiness will come up, and then sadness will come up again. And that's how we gain emotional balance. The third R stands for relationship. Not just any relationship. Children need to be in right relationship. And the best people to provide this are parents, mothers, fathers, grandparents. It can be other adults. It can be a wonderful teacher. Sometimes a teacher is very intuitive and will provide this without even realizing it. But that's how Harriet was at the Akiva Academy, Calgary. That attachment figure, that address to go to, that soft-hearted, caring person who knew how to lead from a place of compassion, who knew how to set limits and guidelines and lead children in a very loving and compassionate way, not ever in a harsh or angry way. There are 6 roots to a relationship. And again, this is another hour-long explanation, but keep in mind that relationships can be shallow or they can go deep. They can be deep and a person can get hurt and they can become shallow again. So our job as parents and hopefully grandparents will be to develop and cultivate and nourish those deep roots of relationship, and then make sure that we maintain them and preserve them. That the relationship is clean from any wounding, clean of any kind of emotional separation. Children are because this relationship is so crucial to a child's well-being and survival, they're also very, very sensitive to anything that would signal to them that they might not be invited, that they might be not as special, that they might be less loved if they do something not pleasing. So the bottom line for us has to be the relationship, no matter how a child is behaving. A child might speak in a very fresh tone of voice. They might say things that they don't really mean. But at the time, we need to remember that they don't really mean it, that the emotion has overcome them and they're not yet mature enough to deal with the emotion. And so we need to remain soft and compassionate and to be able to make room for these big emotions that children are not yet mature enough to direct in the correct way. So how are we doing on time here? I'm not really watching it. Tell me how much more time we have.
Go ahead, keep going. Go ahead. It's fascinating. Please go ahead.
Because in today's society, peer attachment is so common, it's really important to realize that it can be an impediment to growth. We tend to think that children need to socialize and need friends in order to learn how to get along and in order to learn how to cope. It's not true. It's really not true. What happens to children when they are in the society of other children, they are now looking to see who they can attach to. Who's their friend, who likes them, who's going to play with them, who will pick them for their team. And they become preoccupied with how to fit in. And so they're in a survival mode. And the brain cannot do both things. The brain cannot be in parasympathetic mode and in sympathetic mode at the same time. Children now have no rest. And the brain can't help mature the child if it has to invest itself into making the child feel secure and safe. So that's the brain's first priority. That's its, how do you say it in English? The Breirat Nechtal, that's the basic mode of the brain, is to first make the child feel secure and safe. Who am I attached to? So the sacrifice then will be growth and maturation. So friends are nice, but we have to make sure that they don't replace us. We need to be the primary attachments. The child needs to be orienting to us, not to his friends. And the child has to be taking direction from us, not from his friends or her friends. We don't want to see them in a pursuit of friends. This also invites a pursuit of screens, because then they want to be in touch with their friends through their telephones. And then a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old or even an 8-year-old will start begging, can I have a phone? I need a phone. All my friends have phones. And this is just an indication of their pursuit of friends, because that relationship can really almost never be deep. Friends cannot be the answer for each other because they all need it so much. It's like expecting their friends to bring them lunch and to bring them supper. Well, they can't. They're not old enough and mature enough and standing on their own feet yet to provide food and sustenance for other children. And so we are the only ones who can give our children this sustenance of relationship. So as soon as you see a child in pursuit of friends, or you feel it, you can actually feel that your child is replacing you with friends. We feel somehow the energy has changed. We need to bring them back to us. We need to reconnect them to us. We need to deepen the relationship with us. We need to make it more secure with us. So when children show signs of distancing themselves from us in any way, not sharing what's in their hearts with us, not feeling they're not holding on to us, feeling they're not taking our direction, feeling they're not looking to us for the cues. You know, we can just, with a gesture, the look in the eye, we indicate to children what's next. This is what we're doing now. They can pick that up very easily and fall right into line. When we see that we've lost that and it's not happening, we know this is not because of a child's behavior or because of a lack of chinuch. It's because there's some hunger for relationship that's not being fulfilled. And we need to start again with providing those 6 roots of relationship again, and making sure the relationship is secure, waiting for it to become deep. It takes 6 years until a child is 6 years old for it really to become deep. And if it hasn't, or if we've lost it, or if a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old, we say something happened to our relationship, they're not sharing their lives with us, that's where we need to start, is to start again working on the relationship. And grandparents fit into this because grandparents are the supporting cast. We are part of the village. And parents can't do this alone because it's exhausting, because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And parents need support, and grandparents can be the perfect support people. I'll give you an example. My daughter-in-law called me last week, and she told me that one of her 7 children, she needed time. She needed closeness. She needed attention. And my daughter-in-law said, I just can't give her what she needs right now. I'm overwhelmed with work and with the younger children and planning a bar mitzvah. And we agreed that her daughter would come for Shabbat to us. And then on Sunday, I would spend a day with her, celebrating her birthday with her. And it was just perfect. We just had a wonderful time together. Things worked out really, really well. And I was able to really fill her up with such a feeling of being loved, being cared for, with warmth, lots of smiles and hugs and good food. And she went home feeling so satiated. It really feels like getting a good meal when you've been with someone who just loves you so much and expresses it with, hugs and telling you why they love them. And, all the things that we're so good at that as bubbies, bubbies and savtas and grandmas, we're so good at that. And so this is a way that we can fill in when our children need that support. And it might need to be once a week. It might need to be a phone call every day, whatever it is. This is a very intuitive thing. It could be provided in many, many ways. And even across the world, it can be provided. Today with the internet, we can do Zoom conferences. We can send messages. We can send emails. But it's that regular contact that now as grandparents, we have more time to do this. And of course, more experience and more perspective. And maybe the little annoying things that annoy a mother don't annoy us because we already have the perspective to know that they'll grow out of it. And it's even humorous sometimes. So we're very good at that. Of course, to do this, we need to have good attachment relationships with our children so that they feel at home with us and that they are delighted to put their children into our hands. So in other words, there needs to be a hierarchy. Children need to be orienting towards their parents and their grandparents. Their parents need to be looking towards and orienting towards the grandparents. and on back through the generations. Don't they love to hear us tell stories about our grandparents and way back before then? And we really can go way, way back and be that connecting link to keep our children, grandchildren deeply rooted in who they are, in their roots. Someone asked, can I mention the 6 roots? I'll just go through them very quickly. Each one is a long explanation, but the very shallow root that you recognize in babies is through the senses. Babies need to be held. They need to look into your eyes and see the delight in your eyes when you see them. They need to hear your loving tone of voice. You're singing to them. That's the first root, the food you give them, tasting the food. Through the senses, this is how they become attached to you. This is shallow because we know as soon as we put a baby down, 10 minutes later, they want to be in your arms again. So by the 2nd year, they have a second root, which is the root of sameness. And this is when they start to imitate you. They start to talk like you. They want to wear your scarves, your jewelry. They want to hold your purse. They want to wear your shoes, anything that belongs to you. They want to play with. They want to open your drawers and take out the pots and pans. Those are their favorite toys, all of the things that you use every day. Why? Because when they're using these things and holding them, they're holding you. They're holding on to you. Now so we want to give them a sense of sameness, and me too, oh, you like vanilla ice cream? Me too. Well, this is shallow, but it's a great way to start a relationship because we can build it from there. The 3rd root is belonging. This is when a child starts to say, my mommy, my ima. They feel possessiveness. And these roots, when they're so shallow, are also very intense. And so there's a jealousy there of siblings or any child that will come close to their ima. And that's fine. They'll grow out of it as they develop more roots and the roots go deeper. Loyalty is on the heels of belonging, of this possessiveness. Then they're loyal. Then Ima is the most beautiful Ima in the world. Abba is the smartest Abba in the whole wide world. And they become very loyal and always take our side. And this is very handy. If we cultivate and maintain these roots, teenagers will feel this way as well. The next root, the 4th root, is a deeper root. Now we go deep. And that's the root of specialness, uniqueness. I'm special. I matter to my mother. I matter to my father. They'll go out of their way for me. I'm important to them. That's when they'll start with, look at me. Look what I can do. Look how high I can jump. Look at my painting. Look how tall I built this Lego tower. They want to see the delight in our eyes that, wow, you are so special. That's what they want to feel from us. The 5th root is a deeper root yet, and that's the root of love. This is when they give their hearts to us. And this is the first time they can be away from us and yet feel the connection. Now we never leave them. So the 5th root is very, very important. We see this in the 5-year-old who draws hearts. They'll give us pictures with hearts and flowers and all kinds of expressions of love. They fall deeply in love. And the 6th root, which is the deepest, is psychological intimacy, where now that they give us their hearts, they want to share everything in their hearts. They want to tell us all their secrets. They can't even help it. They don't know why, but they want to share everything with us. And this is why it's such a crucial root, because we need to know what's going on in their lives. We need to be the answer for them when they have problems, when they have dilemmas. We want them to bring it to us and share it with us without worrying that we're going to judge them in any way. So in a nutshell, those are the 6 roots of relationship that really only another adult can provide a child and not a friend. And parents and grandparents are the ones who are most invested into our children's well-being. We care about them more than anyone else will ever care about them. And so we're the best providers of this. And we can do it because it's just in us to do this. So those are the 3 R's: rest, room, and relationship. So I'm just going to add a 4th element, and that's the element of play. Play is a very powerful construct, so much so that Dr. Neufeld has written 3 whole courses on the subject of play. Play in emotion, play in relationship, and play 101, which is the definition of play and what the characteristics are. When we think of play, we can think of a lot of things, but not all play is true play. Some play is actually work. As soon as a child has to worry about winning the game, it's no longer play, it's work. If he has to worry about being picked for the team or scoring points, he's at work, not at play. Play means no work. It means no worry or concern about the outcome, the consequences, the results. It's the activity itself that brings pleasure, that engages us. So examples of true play would be art, any kind of artwork where you're not worried about how it's going to come out. Nobody has to say, oh, that's really nice. Oh, that's beautiful. It's just the enjoyment of playing with the colors, the shapes, the forms. Music. We say play the piano, but if you're playing for an audience and you need the applause or approval, that's work. And even the music will sound different if there's no audience there and you can just play with your heart and soul. I know that because I play the piano, and the minute anyone walks into the room, that's it, I'm finished. I'm too self-conscious. Yes, the beautiful thing about these roots is that we can begin cultivating them at any time and at any age. From 1 to 6, it's chronological. After the age of 6, you can begin at any root and go to any root from that root. You can start with sameness, and then you can go to mattering, and then you can go to love, and then you can do it at any order you want because the potentials are all now there. And play is a wonderful place to begin cultivating relationship. And this is why I added it. Because when we play, what happens? We're in good relationship. When you grab your granddaughter and you dance with her, you're playing with her. And what does that do for your relationship? You begin to laugh and you think of, funny things, and it feels very warm and loving and close. So play is a window. It's a doorway into cultivating relationship. It's a doorway into giving rest, because really we can only play when we're at rest. We can't say to a child, go play. It won't happen. They have to be in a rest mode. So, but we can play and get to a rest mode through play. And play is a place where there's room. It's this bubble, a parenthesis in life. It's a break from real life where all the emotions can come out. You can express anything in play because it's not for real. It's just make believe. It's pretend. Let's make believe we're angry lions and we're gonna roar and roar and roar. All that anger can come out. I mean, this is actually one of the things we do with children who have a lot of anger and aggression and they don't have any tears. We first work at it with play, and we give that as a space where they can get that strong emotion out through acceptable expressions of anger. They can throw water balloons, they can jump up and down. And this is really applicable to all ages, even a 17-year-old. If we can somehow invite them into a play mode, and it's a way to help them thaw out. What we see with teenagers is those defenses that have hardened. They get harder as time goes on because the vulnerable emotions are just stuck inside. And when they get stuck there and the brain has to defend a child from feeling them, they get harder and harder as time goes on. But the goal is then to soften the heart, soften a child's heart. It means we have to ignore a lot of the behaviors we don't like in a child, because we first need to soften the heart. Sometimes we have to soften our own hearts because we become defensive when our children speak freshly, go against our values, go against our rules, present themselves in a way that is, it just raises our own emotions and our own defenses. So we'll need to recognize that in ourselves, soften ourselves so we can start from the beginning, which is providing a warm, caring relationship where we do this providing no matter what. Find a way to hold on, to get a hold, find it, discover it, trial and error, find those ways to get the heart of the child again, to get them to trust us, lean on us. Know that we extend an invitation unconditionally. It's not connected to his behavior or anything else, just because he exists in this world. And it takes a lot of humility, a lot of our own tears, but the results do come. They do come over time. So I added on play because this is the window. How does one stay strong to allow for real sharing? Yes, how do we present ourselves in a way that we don't expose our dismay or our disappointment or our shock at what the child might be telling us? Yeah, I think somehow we need to prepare ourselves psychologically to be prepared for whatever might come. Be prepared for the worst and hope the worst doesn't come, but find a way to somehow be calm, patient, and just listen, and many times to just remain quiet. If you don't know what to say, just be present. At least that. Let's start with that, to just be present. You can even shake your head, like nod your head a little bit, like, I get it, I get it, I get it. You don't have to know what to say. Very often we just really won't know what to say, and that's okay. It's just to be present and to project that I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I want to think about it. I'm so happy you shared it with me. That would really be yeah. And, many parents feel, well, I didn't get this when I was growing up. How am I going to give it to my children? But this is such another beautiful aspect of this, because we can give it to our children because we have it inside of us. And in the beginning, it might feel strange or artificial, but we'll get there. We can fake it till we make it, and we'll get there. And when that happens, it doesn't matter what was in the past. It doesn't matter. And one way to get there is to make time and space for ourselves to play. Believe it or not, to make time in our lives, in our day, to find the things that we love, not the things we have to do, the things we think that are a waste of time, the things we put at the bottom of the list. To give that space. Do you like to paint? Buy a set of paints, buy some canvases or a block of art paper. Make a space for yourself somewhere where you can just be there. Just put what comes out of you on the paper. If maybe it's writing, maybe it's listening to music. During the Corona time, somebody sent me a little video of a Zoom session where people were drumming together in a very soothing, calm, beat. And I shut the door to the room I was in, and I just wanted to dance. And I started dancing to the rhythm of the drums. And then I started crying. And I realized, oh my, I'm so stuck inside with feelings that just needed to come out. And that's what this play can give us. And it can be spontaneous. You know, you might be cleaning the house and put some music on and just dance. Just dance, take the broom, start dancing. Walking in nature. You just find your own ways to help what's inside of you to just come out. Maybe it's writing, something artistic. You find your own things that speak to you and give you pleasure. And that can help to thaw out relationships with stuck teenagers or other people in your lives that you feel have somehow become distant from you. And it's easy, it's easier to just invite someone into play. Let's go for a hike. Let's go for a hike and then go get some ice cream. And to be in a playful state of mind. It's a state of mind. And if we can bring ourselves into that state of mind, then that's it. We can get there. We can get there. And sometimes there need to be a lot of tears on the way. And that's great because it's just cleansing. It's really cleansing. So those are the 4 ideas I wanted to give to you. Rest, room, relationship, and the doorway into all these things, play, and play with them. Play with all of these things. And I just wanted to end with an idea. I said that, parents and grandparents, we care so much about our children and our grandchildren and the next generation. And, the Kutzker Rebbe said that there were 3 things that parents need. Siyata Dishmaya, Siyata Dishmaya, and Siyata Dishmaya. But the Stipler Gaon added to that and said 99% of raising children is Siyata Dishmaya. The other 1% is the parents' efforts. But that 1%, that will make a big difference on the other 99. So I hope that the ideas I've given you, these conditions of rest and room and relationship and play, that they will give you some idea for what you can do with that 1%. And don't worry about behavior. Behavior is the fruit of this inner growth in children. And when we provide the conditions, we don't have to worry about what the behavior is going to be like. How are they going to behave later? They'll get there. They'll get there. So I want to thank you again for this opportunity. It was a big honor for me to meet all of you and to be part of something with Harriet, who is very dear to me. And I just want to wish everyone good health and a lot of nachat from your children and your grandchildren and your families. And we should all be zoche, really, to greet the Mashiach together. Bring out those tambourines, the Tof Miriam, and we should be able to dance together and play together.
Wow, Shoshana, it's Nomi. I know that, not sure if Adele's still on. She said she had to get off, but I just got to tell you, this was unbelievable. It was just so beautiful and so incredible.